And Are You Okay is a not safe for work podcast, so any young listeners are discouraged from continuing. However, we literally have no way to track that, so do whatever the hell you want and enjoy the show.
There. I want to be so in it that I feel like I'm not just there, I'm there with you, and then I'm also potentially there with Siebes, and then Ray the Ruiner happens to be there, and a special shout out to Siebes' significant other Eileen.
Hey,
I want that Star Wars night at the Phillies game type energy, you know what I'm saying?
I like walk off win and extra innings type energy.
Walk off win and extra winnings type energy. I want to be in there. I want to be feeling it again.
I got you.
If you haven't heard, Matt and I did something a little fun with our friends.
We manifested a Phillies win. It was more than fun.
It was more than fun. Our energy, the Force was with us. Damn it,
the Force was strong with us, very strong. And we willed Bryce Harper to get that win for the boys.
Hell yeah, you were listening to Aint, Are You Okay? Right now, a Phillies fucking podcast.
A Phillies fucking podcast. Go Fightins.
Go Fightins.
Go Fightins.
You get a hoagie down at the Wawa.
Some coffee.
You got some water ice.
Call your mother while she's walking the dog. All of that.
Tell him, Matt. Tell him. But I am your host, Mikey, the human holocron himself. Darth Plagueis, the reinformed.
Plagueis, the re-educated.
And I'm back with my co-host, the Rogue One, the Rogue Only, Smack Talker Skywalker, Mace Windu, Broby One Kenobi. I think I hit them all, but why don't you get them with the rest of them?
Yeah, that's all of them. Your main from the Gray Hoodie Gang, fresh off his 95, about to hit hyperdrive, punch it.
Oh,
hey, man, I said fresh off my 95 when I should have said 9 to 5, but 95 is the major highway right here, so it works. Double line times. Hey, don't ask me how.
Anyone on the East Coast knows. They know.
Interstate 95.
Anyone on the East Coast should also be afraid of the Fightin' Phils, because we back.
Go. Oh, yeah, them boys is back.
As exciting as Star Wars. Yeah, they really are. I can feel it's like a lightsaber. Cauterize some wounds out here. Okay.
Ooh. Phases are not set to stun.
No. We're about to blow up some Death Stars with these bats, but at the same time, while we had so much fun at Star Wars Night at the Phillies game, some unfortunate news why we're here today to talk about the cancellation of Star Wars The Acolyte. Matt, I have 3 questions for you. We're going to kind of it's going to be somewhat of a bite-sized episode. We're going to talk about the cancellation of The Acolyte, and then we're just going to talk about some of the things that we're most excited for concerning Star Wars Outlaws, which I believe releases in 3 days, but there's been a lot of early access that content creators have gotten their hands on the game. So I just want to talk to you about kind of what you're most excited about. But yeah, I kind of have these written up for you. So if you have things you want to ask me, that's certainly fine. I'm going to encourage it. But I guess I just want to start with, what is the most upsetting thing for you about the cancellation of Star Wars The Acolyte?
Low-hanging fruit. I'm sure if I got super introspective, I could dig deeper about my jobs for minorities and the nerd space and all that fun stuff. But I would probably say the things that were presented in Acolyte that could have meant bigger stuff for previous lore, obviously Plagueis being a part of the show, I would have loved to see where that would have went with Oshi and the Stranger, as I guess his unofficial name is. Just seeing where that could have went into, because I feel there's so much Skywalker saga lore that they like kind of danced around, and they were kind of like greater things that we didn't really understand, you know, like creating kids from Force. Like we've heard about it, we talked about it, the Vader comics have like kind of referenced it and whatnot, but we haven't gotten like a full on-screen breakdown as to like, how do you do this, like how does this work, what forces are involved. So just the deeper explanation to greater Star Wars lore that this show probably was gonna touch on, not getting that. They might repurpose it and like explain it somewhere else, but like
for sure,
it seemed that season 2 was definitely going to touch on a lot of things. Like I said, like with the Virgins and the creating Force babies, and how much did Yoda know, and the Great Jedi Scandal of '88. I don't know what year it was, but '88 just feels right. Like, that's probably my biggest point of sadness for the show.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely probably the Jedi Scandal of '88 is definitely like up there. I know that
name of this episode.
It just might be, Matt. Just might be. I was thinking of dropping a "Say It Ain't Soul," but we'll see. As we
I like
kind of
that.
like move.
I like that.
I know we're a victim of the lag there. Unfortunately, my bad on that one. Definitely.
I got the punchline though, so we're good.
That's all good. I think, like, just piggybacking on your point, while the Jedi Scandal is certainly something that I wanted to see play out, I just was really liking Manny Jacinto and Amanda Stenberg's performances. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to see where I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't really care that much about May in the grand scheme of things, but Osha and Kamir definitely seemed like characters I wanted to learn more about. I thought there was a lot of potential for tragedy there. And this show happened to lean into a darker bag of tricks, and I don't think we get too much of that in regular mainstream Star Wars, especially the Mando timeline. So that is something I'm going to miss for sure. And I really do feel for a lot of the actors who put their heart and soul into, pun intended, into this show. A lot of them not continuing on, but for the ones who were clearly going to be crucial to season 2 of the story, for them to not get to kind of return and finish things out the way they wanted to is definitely a little upsetting. So that's kind of how I feel about that. I do think that there was a lot of cool things that the Acolyte did, and that kind of leads me into my next question here for you. And it's definitely something that I think is possible, but like if you could take anything from the Acolyte production wise into other Star Wars projects, like what would it be? Like what resonated with you from, you know, obviously we talked about the story ad nauseum, but like the actual making of the show, and it felt like it was taken a little more seriously, and for a show with this kind of budget, I guess it was warranted. But what would you like to see Disney and Lucasfilm kind of like take from the show's production and bring it into other projects?
Oh yeah, I'll give you 2. The easy one being the fight choreography from this show. Mm-hmm. We talked about it a bunch during the cover. You know, phases of lightsaber fights have changed over the years, obviously, you know, because of cinematography, you know, choreography itself, what they can and can't show on, you know, or what they could and couldn't make happen just with CGI and whatnot. But we always talked about, you know, like with the original trilogy, it was very like stage fighting, you know, it wasn't by much way by, you know, choreography and like cool flashy moves, and rightfully so, because that was supposed to be like a bygone era of Jedi. So like, you know, people who are classically trained in the art of swordsmanship wouldn't have been around at that point in time. And then with the prequel trilogy, you know, they wanted to be like, hey, we gave y'all like, I won't say dog shit, but we gave you the old man fights in the original trilogy. Let's show you how when these people were in their prime, how they was cooking. But it was like a dance.
Boy, were they cooking.
It was like a dance. It was 1000% a dance. And I know, like, not me particularly, but I don't yuck the yum of people who feel like they were like overly choreographed, because it like was very much made to be aesthetically pleasing to the eye, but like in the suspension of disbelief, that's probably not how a fight would really go. Because it's like the minute someone tries to do a little turn, I'm stabbing you in the back. Like, as soon as you try to do a little flare and an unnecessary flip, like kind of what Obi-Wan and Anakin. But there was a lot of moves in the prequel trilogy, which is like, oh yeah, that would have got you killed if this was like, oh.
Are you saying you would have given them the old Sheev shiv?
1000%. Bro, I would have been the dirtiest Jedi in all the lands, because like whatever rules of engagement people were following for dueling, I wasn't doing none of that shit, bro.
I literally was about to say he's not following the rules of engagement. Thanks, George.
Oh, bro, as soon as you try to hit me with a flare and you go to like turn to try to like get some torque on your swing, I'm stabbing you in the back, bro. But then when we talked about with the Acolyte, very akin to one of my favorite fights, probably a shorter fight, but one of my favorite fights was Finn versus Kylo Ren in Force Awakens at the end, because it just felt like they just wanted to murder one another. It wasn't supposed to be, it wasn't supposed to be pretty. It wasn't supposed to be like a silhouette, like an eloquent a duel, a dance with blades. It was just like, no, I have this weapon that if I get you with it, you're gonna die. So I'm gonna try to get you with it. And I feel like the Acolyte had a lot of that, but they did it in a very beautiful way. Like you could tell, like they were like, you know, the High Republic age of like Jedi, and they were like all very into their sword play. But it was like those swings felt personal. Like they felt dangerous. Like I was on the edge of my seat. Like I was like, oh, be careful. Like, oh, guard, feint, counterattack. Like I was on the edge of my seat. So I would say definitely like that style of fighting where they found a beautiful balance of like the great Jedi choreography, but also it felt like there were stakes. Like there were stakes in it. Like I felt like someone's gonna die. Like someone's gonna lose an eye. That's how I felt about it.
A lot of people ended up dying.
Exactly. So that would be my one. My second would be, and they've already started doing it, but I would love to see it done more. Getting these bigger name actors into Star Wars, like to help continue to push the IP forward, because like you're getting like the Carrie-Anne Mosses of the world, the JJs of the world, Lee Jong Jae, you know, like we're getting Amanda Sterling, she's a rising actress in her right, like getting a lot of these bigger name actors to like join the Star Wars universe. I feel like does nothing but benefit us as the fans, because it's gonna keep the money pouring in. And, you know, like I always say, Disney's going to Disney. If you buy it, they will push it out. So I love seeing, because I feel like weirdly, even though Star Wars is like a gigantic property, they don't ever really get like huge stars to like start like be in Star Wars. Like I feel like a lot of the people who are huge now got big because of Star Wars, but they weren't like huge actors coming in to Star Wars, like a Denzel joining Star Wars or something along those lines.
It's really rare that you get someone like a Carl Weathers to be in Star Wars. And even then, I wouldn't say that, like, don't get me wrong, I fucking loved Carl Weathers. I'm so glad he was in The Mandalorian. But there is a difference to someone like a Carl Weathers and a Denzel, right?
Exactly.
And so, like, having higher name people come in is certainly something that I'm looking more forward to.
And I feel like we're starting to get that. Like, I feel like even though the movie wasn't too well received, there were a lot of big names in Solo. Like a lot, like A-list actors.
It's funny because like some amazing performances from people like Woody Harrelson, Donald Glover's also always the best. Yeah,
definitely killed it. Amelia Clark, Khaleesi, Daenerys Targaryen, killed
fantastic.
it. Like, and that was like the height of her popularity. That was like still peak Game of Thrones time. So she was very, very much in demand. But yeah, getting like those big names to like do Star Wars stuff, which I feel like with shows like Mando and Book of Boba Fett, like we're starting, like fucking Thundercat was in Book of Boba Fett. Like, so like we're starting to Timothy Olyphant. We always talk one of our favorite Timothys. So we're starting to see that, and I'm really excited about it. And then did you see that this kind of goes into along with the cancellation, and you might have had this already as a point, that Keanu Reeves was allegedly like supposed to be like in talks to play Soul?
I did see this. I don't believe it actually, and I'll tell you why. And listen, it could definitely be something that is real and it's just coming out now. But I'm pretty sure at the beginning of like the press junket, Leslie was talking about how she wanted Lee Jung Jae for this role, and that it was a big reason why they went and got him. and he learned English for
well.
this. So I do think that might be a conflicting report, and that it might be a little wishful thinking from some scoopers who are like, they just want Keanu in Star Wars really bad. I think it's inevitable at this point, honestly. I mean, the man's playing Shadow the Hedgehog. He clearly doesn't care about hopping into franchises.
And not only just that, they've already pretty much kind of like tipped their cap and this is all Disney saying like, oh, there's like a role for him in the MCU that's like for him that they're like pretty much building. Yeah, like pretty much building towards is what I've been saying. But the report that I had read that showed that with the kind of Keanu Reeves, it had mentioned that they feel like that might have actually played a part into like the explanation as to why the Acolyte got canceled. Because I've been seeing like a lot of crazy things that like somebody had put up a screenshot like the Acolyte merch, you can't even find it now. Like it's like if you search like Acolyte merch on like the Disney sites, it's like gone. That might have changed since like they got snitched on. Once they put that out there, I'm sure that probably wasn't received very well, so it might be back up. But I will say this show does seem like it was like unceremoniously dumped. Like we've seen cancellations that happens like literally all the time. Some of our favorite shows get canceled. But a lot of times like with the cancellations, it's kind of like a bitter farewell. Like man, we wish we could have kept it going, but like whether it's like it cost too much to make or the viewership wasn't behind it, it just kind of seemed like Disney was just like throw it away.
I was gonna say it does definitely kind of reek of, and I've seen a lot of people speculate about this. If you haven't been around, Matt and I kind of took our summer vacation here for a second in terms of putting out content. But like, so I think we've been able to sit with this news for a little bit and actually think on it a tad bit more. We're kind of like the last to the game to really talk about this in some sense, but it felt weird not to. There has been this stink of this feels like it came from up on high, like Disney investors for whatever reason were like maybe reading too much into the negative review bombing and decided to pull the plug on something where like it very much felt like season 2 was a planned thing. And then the whole conversation around, and I'm sure you and I have seen it all, but like the conversation around a show not being able to get its footing in the streaming era of television is kind of like, I don't want to call it a red flag of the industry, like not being able to adjust to the times, but it certainly feels like it, that like if something isn't guaranteed a hit from season 1, they're not going to continue it, which means you can't really slow build a show anymore.
That's facts.
That's pretty upsetting, I would say.
Unless you get like high quality cinematic excellence like Rings of Power that get approved for season 2 before season 1 even starts.
Well, so Matt, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I do have one more question about this. There is something I wanted to just talk about, because I guess like this it leads into my final question. Actually, my final question is just, what do you think Lucasfilm and Disney should take away from this? What do you hope they learned from it? And for me, and I mean, you really just hit the nail on the head, but like, what I think they should learn from it is that stop greenlighting shows on one season. Say, I'm going to commit to this for 2 or 3 seasons and give it time to breathe. Because if fans know more is coming and the expectation is there that there is more, well, you can spend time building out longer storylines that start in season 1 that might get fleshed out in season 2 and season 3. I think that's something like invest in your IPs. Like that's what the new era, I think, of streaming is going to demand. And oddly enough, Amazon, who was like the latest to the game of streaming services, they did that with Rings of Power. And between you, me, and Ray, and her dad, who used to be a producer of the show only because we recorded in his house, we're the only people when season 1 of Rings of Power was airing that I could talk to that felt positive about it. There was just the 4 of us. We were in our own little tiny corner. I agree. And now the hype around season 2 is like full blown. So many people are like, yo, I'm hyped for Rings of Power. And I'm like, where were you when this shit was airing a year ago? Like,
right.
I wanted to fucking rave and rant about this. Fortunately, I had you so that we could talk about it.
I got you, big dog. But I do want to add just a back point to what you just said, just in terms of investing. I feel like another part of that is stop assuming that people are gonna flock to it just because it's a Star Wars show. Actually promote the shit the right way. Like actually like give us teaser trailers, like give us like breakdowns, give us interviews. Like the pre-hype for this show, I often have to remind myself that in terms of like Star Wars shit, Lord of the Rings shit, you know, anime stuff, like because I'm plugged in and I'm like alert to it, like yeah, it crosses my radar. But like if I remove myself from it, a lot of the promotion for these Disney shows, it's been worse in the MCU, but like with Book of Boba Fett and now the Acolyte and shit, like the promotion for this isn't the best. Like they're the hype for it, like when they're in it, like shit, even I won't put Book of Boba Fett into this as much because I feel like the way that they did it, they would end the episodes with like, "Ooh, can't wait to watch it next week." Like that was kind of like their promotion style. But just in terms of like pre-marketing and like teaser trailers and sizzle reels and like, you know, shit like that, and like, "Oh, can't wait to see what's coming up next." We didn't get that. And then on top of that, these shows don't give you the next week on style previews anymore.
Yeah.
Like, so it's just like, how are you expecting to build anticipation when commercials aren't a thing anymore because it's streaming service, and you're not even giving us like next time on Game of Thrones style S trailers at the end of these episodes to like make people like, oh shit, this is what we get next week. I know sometimes like a couple of days before the episode drop, they might do like a little teaser thing, like kind of a sizzle thing. I know they did that sometimes, but clearly them shits ain't working.
Yeah, there's got to be something new to the formula, and I'm gonna argue your point slightly because I fundamentally I don't disagree with you, but I feel that they did a better job of rolling the carpet out for this show than they have a lot of their other shows. Like even Mando didn't feel like it was getting as much press and attention in its third season as Acolyte just got. Yeah. So I think that there is something to be said about that, but you're right. There's got to be some changing of the formula, some changing of the times. Ultimately, I think you and I are both coming away saying the same thing, though. It's like, invest in these things, and at the end of the day, you got to tell a good story. Like, I'm not... Especially
if it's brand new characters. Like, it's not like with Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, like, you have the nostalgia pop. Like, you have, like, built-in shit. So it's like, yeah, like... we could just, you know, be hype off of the name. Like Mandalorian's going in and like got the movie instead. Book of Boba Fett. We all love Boba Fett. Like, you know, my man had one line in the original trilogy, but like we all fucking love Boba Fett. But just like with these new shows, like we've stated many a times with Acolyte, it's the first live action show in the High Republic era of the Jedi. Not a lot of people played Knights of the Old Republic.
That's the thing. That's the other part of it, is that, like, don't get me wrong, I love the Knights of the Old Republic, but the High Republic is its own publishing initiative.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's an era of Star Wars that exists only in books and comics, and most people are confusing it with the Old Republic, which is, in and of itself, a time era that a lot of, you know, older fans very much love. And so they may have come into it thinking, like, oh, this is supposed to be the Old Republic? It's like, no, it's way ahead of that. It's closer to the prequel trilogy, but I wouldn't be surprised if there were some fans who like don't keep up with it like we do, who were maybe excited for, you know, to go to an era that they thought they were going to recognize, and in reality they were getting something completely different. Now, that being said, that's kind of on them for, you know, not being on the up and up and knowing about the show, but doing more to inform people about this. Maybe introduce the High Republic in an animated show before you jump into a live action show.
Yeah.
You know,
shit, I
don't know what the answers are. Trying to think of things to like maybe soften the blow of these things.
I feel you, and it's just like, I find it funny where like platforms like YouTube work so synonymously with like streamers in so many different aspects, but it's just like they could have easily did like a little 4-minute YouTube special of like, oh, like what's happening in this era of Star Wars, like just to kind of like hey, like this is a totally unexplored era of Star Wars. This is what's been going on. This is what's happening in the galaxy during this time, and it didn't even have to be didn't have to even be like visual shit. It could be like if there's any Game of Thrones fans listening to this podcast, which I'm sure there is, they do a lot of cool things where they have like actual actors from the show like voice over like lore from like past shit that isn't in Game of Thrones. Yeah, and it's fire. Like it's like legit them like breaking down like history of like, so for example, like when they were doing like the history, not to make this a Game of Thrones podcast, but like when they were doing like the history of like the Targaryens, like which is what now is House of Dragons.
House of the Dragon, yeah.
Yeah, but they had did like a YouTube thing, just like kind of like going over like an anthology of this series, and it had like different voice actors, like Emilia Clarke, because she played a Targaryen, was in it. The guy who played her brother Viserys, like he voiced some of it, but they literally were just kind of going through like bit by bit everything that happened in the Dance of the Dragons, and it was just like still images of like, you know, it kind of like quote unquote like book pages, like, you know, like
they did that cool for Diablo 4 as well. It was like, oh, you didn't play the first 3 because there's been such a large gap in between the releases. Well, let's get you up to speed on how hell came to Sanctuary, which is just like the lore of Diablo essentially, right?
Yo, and like I said, like YouTube is such a easily accessible, everybody's on it anyway. They could have easily put out some YouTube, you know, exclusive footage just for that. Like, oh hey, this is what's been going on in this era of Star Wars, this is what's been going on in the galaxy, like the Jedi are in power, this is who's in charge, these are some familiar names you might recognize.
Yeah, and like, it's not like it hasn't been done before. The Old Republic video game did that with like there was a Keldor master who like narrated everything, which is the race of Plo Koon, but he went through the conflict of the first Knights of the Republic, the second Knights of the Republic, and even before that with the Jedi Civil War and the Mandalorian Jedi War. And it's like all of that is really crucial to understanding some of the deeper nuances of things. You don't have to watch it to enjoy the game, but it definitely allows for another entry point, right? Or it builds hype, and you can kind of like build up that way. And I think that there's 2 things that I worry about sometimes, just because it's like, I don't think you need to dumb things down for your audience. But in a lore-rich world, sometimes I feel like you do, because without it, you lose the casual fan.
Yeah, especially like, again, lore-rich world with brand new everything, like new planets, new people, like new terms. Like I'd be willing to bet not too healthy penny, because I'm frugal, but a moderately healthy penny, I would bet that a big chunk of people who watched The Acolyte have never heard of a Virgins prior to that show. And it's like, what the fuck is this? What have you? Like when they dropped Force Dyad on us in Rise of Skywalker, it's just like, let me now come to grips with this new thing while watching this movie. Like, okay.
So the human holocron part of me is like, yeah, new lore, I love it. And then there's another part of me where it's like, well, why are you putting it here though?
Exactly. So it's just like, and like you said, it's literally just kind of all points at the same point. Like, like invest more into these shows, like flesh them out, or at least have a game plan. Like, if you're not gonna do the traditional like, oh, coming soon marketing, then it's like, hey, you better do something to get these people invested in these characters before you're 7 episodes in. And like, I have no emotional attachment to none of these motherfuckers, so it's like, why would I care?
Yeah,
not me.
That's fair.
Like,
I hear you. But like, why would the casual audience care? And there was another thing that kept coming out, and I saw it as The Acolyte was airing, and I personally didn't feel this way. But there were a lot of people who were like, really, a 30-minute runtime? And like, dog, I gotta be honest, when CW can be churning out like 45-minute episodes, like for a super long season, and they can't even do hour-long episodes for an 8-episode season, there is a part of me that is like, is Disney responsible for being like, oh, this is a movie, but we want it on Disney Plus, and you're grading it the wrong way? Like, was it meant to be a TV show, or was it actually originally pitched as a movie? Because I think that we need to come to terms with things and determine if we're putting things in an episodic format on Disney Plus, we have to start treating them like TV shows and not a movie cut into 6 or 8 pieces.
Word.
Because
if you're going to do that, make them like hour-long episodes. So like, stop giving us 24, 22-minute shows with 15 minutes of credits. I don't care who the German voice actors are. No disrespect to the Germans, but it's just like,
right.
like it's just like you back. It's like it'll say 45 minutes in the runtime. You get real excited, but really 25 minutes of is an episode. So it's just like, and I only get 8 of these motherfuckers. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty wild. And I'm gonna say this every time. It does not matter to me. Like truly, does not matter to me whether you think the show is slow or not. If the episodes are long and they happen to be dealing with character development, shut the fuck up, sit down, and watch the show. Like, I don't need to hear. Don't get me wrong. There's a way to mix it in, but like there are like some of these shows are long like that because you get to spend time with the characters, and people be like, "That's filler," and it's like, no, dude, that is them fleshing out characters. Like,
I'm about to say, like,
right
for 9 years, because I will bang the drum of fuck season 8 of Game of Thrones until my dying days. But for 9 years of that 10 years that show was on, like, no one had no complaints about 10 episodes a season, but we were getting hour long plus episodes. Like, nobody was complaining, oh, these episodes are way too long. If anything, we're like, fuck, give me more.
Yeah,
feed me more, Seymour. Like, so it's just like, pick and choose, like you just said, bro. Like, don't condescend to me and say like, oh, this is filler. Like, oh, this wasn't nothing. Like, bro, they're only giving us but so many episodes, and they're short as fuck. Like, I need more. Like, again, going back to again, like, I'm invested because I've been invested. Star Wars is a big part of my life, but it's like, I know that I'm not the everyman. Like, I know like the hardcore fan base, and this is for like anything. This isn't just Star Wars. Like, you have the people who are like, they're gonna keep your lights on because they're gonna come out no matter what, and they're gonna make excuses when the shit's bad until some time has worn off, and then they might circle back and like, yeah, it wasn't the best. Like,
yeah, but it's gonna kill me and eat me up on the inside if we never see Manny Jacinto play this character again, and 20 years from now they're like, oh man, like the Acolyte was so good.
The Hayden Christensen treatment.
Yeah, the Hayden Christensen treatment. And it's just like, dude, like, fuck you, we had it, we could have gone for another season, and like it's gone now. Like, you can say what you want about the show. Season 5 was lit as fuck, and I feel like we're gonna miss out on stuff like that because people didn't support the show. And you know what? I'm gonna throw it in the description of the episode. I've signed the petition myself. It's like, yeah, I do actually want to see the Acolyte get renewed, and there's a petition with over 50,000 signatures at the time of recording this that you can also sign if you want to see the show renewed. And listen, if you don't, so fucking be it. Like, I'm not gonna tell you what to love and what not to love. But I hate that we're finally... I couldn't be beating the drum about finally getting to play in a new era of Star Wars and then not try to support bringing it back when, you know, it was one of those things that was like, at least they were treading new ground. That's another thing that I hope that they don't shy away from. I'm really concerned that they're like, we tried this thing with a bunch of new characters.
Back to the Skywalkers.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and don't get me wrong, I love the Skywalkers, but I would love to explore new characters as well.
Real rap raw.
Anything else you want to talk about?
I mean, this is Todd. I don't even really know like what this thought is as I'm getting ready to say it, but let this be a lesson to like all the bigots and the incels like in the Star Wars place. Like, if you don't like a show, just don't watch it. And then what might end up happening is the ratings will dictate that Disney will just cancel the show. Like, you don't have to go on this, you know, anti-pride and like, oh, they're pandering and woke Star Wars. If you don't watch the shit, shut the fuck up and don't watch it. The ratings won't promote a second season, and the shit won't get renewed. Like, you don't have to like, you know, bash anybody or be mean and hateful and like, you know, talk down to people who actually did like the show and like, oh, why would you want this renewed? This isn't my Star Wars. All right, then it's not you just said it right there. It's not your Star Wars.
Right. It might be someone else's.
It's 1000% someone else's. Like, it
always is.
If it ain't yours, then just don't let it be yours and don't watch it, and then it will get canceled for poor ratings. Like, we don't have to be assholes about it.
Yeah. And I think that it really like does feel like some of the hate campaign fueled the fire that canceled it. I really hope that wasn't a factor in their decision, but we're not a fly on the wall in those rooms. We can infer and we can understand that might have had something to do with it. And if it did, then fucking shame on the Disney executives who caved to that type of pressure.
Yeah, I can see a lot. What was her Leslie? What's her last name? Heedland. That's the one. I can see, and this is full speculation. I have no way to base this off of fact. This is just like people are going to be people, assholes are going to be assholes. I could see if the push to not bring it back was more the dislike that people had for her than the show, if that makes sense. Like, it's just like, had it been a different director, maybe it wouldn't have been as much venom. But I feel like a lot of people were like, didn't like her vision. And I know that she wasn't shy for like, barking back at the incels, which as she should, more power to her. But I feel like in that situation, it was kind of creating like a bit of a negative cloud over her as like a person. I feel like there is like a big portion of the fan base that just like didn't, and it's the anti-woke, people, whatever that even means. But I do just have a sneaking suspicion that, people being like, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She doesn't know Star Wars. I feel like that could have been a big reason with Disney pulling the plug, that like the fan base was like, didn't have any faith that she specifically could like, whether it is pull this show up by the bootstraps and like, will it into a season 2, or just do like a Star Wars thing, period. Because like I feel like I had read some things that like she wasn't necessarily like a big Star Wars fan. I think I had read like something along those lines that she wasn't like
so far from the truth. But
oh, it's the opposite from that.
It's the opposite. Yeah, no, she like, it's like the people who were telling her that she doesn't know Star Wars probably never read half the books that she did. She was like a massive EU fan. Gotcha. That's the other thing. The people who are like getting their panties in a bunch were probably watching Star Wars YouTubers who are getting clicks to hate on the show, while she was out there like actually reading like the Darth Plagueis novel and stuff like that. So I hear what you're saying.
Maybe they were moving the goalposts, like, oh, she's like, yeah, she knows too much about the lore that's not canon and shit or whatever, blah 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 blah. But
well, that's the thing though, is that like that's all that I feel like that's what people want. They want the EU to return, and it's like it's never coming back. So I don't know why you're
right. I got
like why you're getting so butthurt about it. It's just
nitpicky about Plo Koon's birthday.
Yeah, that literally was the thing where they were like, well, there was no canon age for Kiadi Mundi, yet they spent an entire week being like, this breaks canon, and it's like, it's not canon. It's never been established in canon. So
yeah, because that was like legend stuff that like had his birthday, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, moral of the story is, if you're a hateful piece of shit, suck a dick.
Wise words from Matt, from the Rogue One.
Word. I mean, I try. If the show, like you said, Mikey, if the show was canceled just because viewership was down, then there ain't much that we can say. But like you said, if Disney bent to all the neg bombing around it, like, I mean, you're Disney. Like you do whatever the fuck you want to do anyway. Nobody, I mean, you could bleep this out if you feel like they'll get canceled from Disney, but no one asked for Toy Story 5, and yet we're gonna get it. No one asked for Toy Story 4. That fucking movie was terrible. So don't tell me that Disney don't like die on their heels when they want to die on their heels. Monster University, trash.
Whoa, hold on.
I wasn't the biggest fan of Monster University, bro.
That's okay. That one has a weird. That one has a weird place in my heart. I can't explain it, but
yeah, for nostalgia purposes, I'm rolling. But yeah, the moral of the story is, when Disney wants to do shit, they give no fucks about how we feel about it.
Yeah, they're going to do that sequels to everything else. Where's the Emperor's New Groove 3 or 2? I don't know. Why don't they?
I think there was a 2 that was like straight to DVD.
No, they decided, fuck Cusco, we're going to do Kronk's New Groove.
Yeah, that was it. That definitely was like the off sequel. Facts. But yeah, I mean, like we said, Disney does what Disney wants to do when they want to do it. So I mean, I guess a silver lining could be that when you are a juggernaut like Disney, you could do what you want. I guess there could be a bit of silver lining to be found here, that if they did actually kind of adhere to that very specific piece of the fandom that didn't want the show, maybe that is a sign that they are listening to some extent, which is like promising. But like, yeah, like the ends don't justify the means. But if it's a larger thing to show that they actually are paying attention to like what the people are asking for, or like what's actually like resonating, that's encouraging, at least that part.
In some ways, I could see what you're saying, but I think the people who like are neg bombing just want to see Darth Vader like murder kids, and it's like, I don't know, they're the same people who complain that we've seen Order 66 too many times. So I don't think they even know what they want, if I'm being honest.
Look, it's long-term storytelling. We need to see 66 different versions of Order 66.
Order 66.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
66 ways to Order 66.
Exactly. That's why it keeps coming back, bro. I feel like, you know, if I had to think about it, we're probably on like time like 45. Like, I don't know.
Maybe.
I feel like we have some
and count. Does Revenge of the Sith like count as one, or do we count each individual scene in Revenge of the Sith as one?
I would say, that's a good question. I would say a case could be made that it's two in the one, because it would be like the storming of the temple originally, and then when Obi-Wan and Yoda went, that was like because they watched back Anakin killing kids on the projector, so that was like a different angle.
But
so
then what about like cutting to Kiadi and Plo Koon and Aayla Secura?
Oh, you're right, because that would be different angles.
Yeah.
You're right. So that's like 10 right there.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. Is it from the Jedi's perspective, or is it from, just?
I would just say from every varying perspective would count as one occurrence.
Okay.
What I would say.
So
you would have.
Maybe we should go and count them. We'll come back.
Yeah, that'll be an episode. That'll be an episode.
We'll There's plenty rattling around in my brain right now.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm thinking of them right now. Like,
all right, okay. So let's move on to a hopefully brighter topic here. Star Wars Outlaws comes out in 3 days. It is the newest video game to grace our TV screens. Following Kay Vess, who is a smuggler. It takes place in between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Lots of gameplay is out there. Matt was telling me that IGN did like a whole 14-minute review that he's probably going to send to me after this so we can both watch. But I got to ask, Matt, with seeing some things, preview, trailer-wise, like all this stuff going on, is there anything in particularly that you are hyped for? That was a big word.
How quick this game came out. I'm hype as shit, bro. I feel like even though part of that can be like the sadness of that this summer like literally didn't exist. Like, I feel like once we hit Cinco de Mayo, we just
I hear that,
we just flew. Like,
did it go past you faster than Bryce Harper's hit ball last night?
Yeah, 1,000%. So like, like January, February, March was like, that low spell after the All-Star game that the Phillies went through. But as soon as we hit Cinco de Mayo, we back. full, yeah, right, facts. Full steam ahead. Engage. Like, where we're going, we don't need roads. Hit it to 88. But I remember like when the original teaser trailer came out, and me and you were like is fangirling like a derogatory term now?
I don't care. We were fangirling.
No, we 1,000% were fangirling, but like, would it be like,
hey girl, hey, let's do this.
Hey girl, hey.
We watching the Outlaws. Let's go.
Two snaps in a half circle, bitch. But yeah, no, I vividly remember like us just geeking out over the like initial like test footage, like when they were showing like how you can like go into space seamlessly, and like this is this mission. I was like, this game's gonna be fucking awesome, and the fact that it comes out in 3 days, I'm so excited. Just the open world Star Wars game, because like obviously Jedi Survivor, I always fuck up the names. It's Survivor and what's the other one?
So the first one was
Fallen Order and Survivor.
The second one is Survivor. Yeah.
I always forget Fallen Order's name. I don't know why, but it's linear. But it's like, especially with Survivor, like you get like that one planet that is open world ish, with the cantina and everything. So it's just like, but it is more linear for the majority of the game. So just getting a Star Wars game where I can just legit do whatever the fuck I want, and being an outlaw, I think that's probably my favorite thing. The fact that you're an outlaw in this one, because it's like, yeah, with Cal, you're an outlaw-ish, and you get a blaster and everything, but you're still a Jedi. Still got to do Jedi shit, and answer the call of the Fallen Order.
But, see what you did there. This man's surviving.
Yeah, just like being an outlaw, just running around, just being a rapscallion. Like, I'm just excited, bro. I'm ready to be a scruffy looking nerf herder.
He's a scruffy looking nerf herder, bro. Okay.
I'm ready, dog. I'm ready to be a dank ferric. I don't even know if that's an adjective. Like,
I think we determined that it's asshole in Star Wars speak, or Hatiz. I don't know.
I'm ready to be a space. I could be a space asshole. Like, that's fine.
Now, here's the real question. Does Hondo Ohnaka make an appearance in this game?
Ooh, he'd be around in this time, right?
He is around. He makes it all the way to the sequel trilogy. So,
oh yeah, his ship is when in the giant. You see the ghost and everything and all.
Yeah, he's also like kind of like the main attraction at Galaxy's Edge, which takes place in the sequel era. So,
justice for Hondo. Just give us Hondo. Like,
more.
I don't even get. I don't even care if it's Johnny Depp. Even though I would want it to be Johnny Depp at this point, just make it somebody. Just give me somebody.
Just have Jim Cummings voice him still. I don't care.
Exactly. But yeah, no, just a Star Wars game where I do get to not have to worry about being the savior of the galaxy is gonna be fun.
You know what, Matt? That is a really interesting take, and I really like that. I'm interested to interact with these different like cartels. Kira is running Crimson Dawn at this point in the timeline. So I hope that they were able to get Emilia Clarke to voice her. That would be really sick.
That'd be fire if she's like a secret cameo. That'd be so lit.
The Pikes are pretty active at this time. The Hutt cartel is still... Jabba's alive, right? He's not dead yet. So, and then there's a whole new faction, apparently, that is another rising cartel. But it's just, the underworld is in like full force at this point in the timeline. While the Galactic Civil War is raging. So while I'm always looking for more reasons to get outside of the original trilogy timeline, this just feels like the best time for them to tell this story. And I just gotta be honest, if this story has half the spice that Survivor had, I'm fucking pumped for it to come on.
See what you did there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm excited. I'm really excited. And then Nyx, the little companion.
Yes.
Fire. Awesome. Your droid campaign with the trench. He looks dope as fuck.
The assassin droid with a trench coat. Yeah, I'm full in on that.
I'm locked in, and I'm currently playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is an open world game too. So it's just like overstimulation nation. But like, I'm hyped. I'm super excited for this game. Like the flying through space. That's gonna be. I'm excited about that. Just to see some space flying physics. Because that's going to be fun. But that's my main thing, being able to just be somebody just trying to make their way through the galaxy like their father before them, you
love to see it.
You love to see it. You love to see. What a guy. What a gal.
Kay Vess is her name. I look forward to learning more about her. All right, well, that has been this episode of Aint, Are You Okay?
A Star Wars podcast.
Thank you, Matt. And before we go, just want to let you know that we also have a sister podcast. Matt is on the sister podcast, Dragon Ball for Life, with our good friend Troll Trav, breaking all things down that are Dragon Ball related, anime adjacent. You name it, they're covering it over there. Please go check them out. We are now on YouTube for Aint, Are You Okay? And for Dragon Ball for Life. You can find the links to that in our link tree, which is in every single description of this episode. I do think we directly link out to our YouTube from there as well, and I am throwing it in here. If you feel so inclined as you want to save the Acolyte and have it renewed, I will be putting the link to that petition in the description of this episode /video, so feel free to check that out. Follow us, give us reviews, feel free to comment. We'll try and get back to you. We're trying to be more social as always, but really the way we grow is by you helping us grow. So if you could please just do that in the forms of like, review, subscribe, comment, whatever. Just tell your friends, tell your family.
All that jazz.
And you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter by following us at the letters ANIRUOK pod on Instagram and Twitter, and at our sister podcast, DB4L_pod on Instagram and Twitter as well. Matt, why don't you close this bad boy out?
Land of Maniacs, we have a very traditional outro here in our galaxy, not so far away. We like to say that it could be a show's cancellation. It could be Rhythm Nation. It could be the Dash-In being a superior gas station. At one point in time, it would have been OSHA in May. Life can be a beach, but as long as there's no sand, you guessed it, and you're gonna be okay.
Be okay. May the force be with you, Matt.
And with you.